The research vessel Stellar Pioneer shuddered violently as it dropped out of hyperspace. Nathan Porter's fingers flew across the control panel, desperately trying to stabilize the ship's rapidly deteriorating trajectory. Warning lights bathed the cockpit in an ominous red glow as the vessel plummeted toward the uncharted planet below. "Computer, status report." Nathan commanded, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "Hull integrity at 47%. Main drive offline. Emergency landing protocols engaged." Nathan gritted his teeth as the ship broke through the atmosphere, trailing fire and debris. He was supposed to be collecting data on quantum anomalies in this sector, not crash landing on an unexplored world. The ship's sensors had detected something unusual about this planet, readings that defied conventional physics, but he never intended to get this close a look. The ground rushed up to meet him, a landscape of ethereal purple forests and crystalline formations. Nathan braced himself as the ship skidded across a clearing, carving a deep groove in the iridescent soil before coming to rest against a cluster of towering crystal spires. When the dust settled, Nathan took stock of his situation. The ship was damaged beyond repair, but the emergency beacon was functional. It would take weeks, maybe months, for any rescue ships to reach this unexplored sector. He checked his environment suit's readings. The atmosphere was breathable, though slightly higher in oxygen than Earth normal. At least he wouldn't suffocate. As Nathan emerged from the wreckage, he froze in amazement. The alien forest seemed to pulse with its own inner light. Massive trees with translucent bark reached toward twin suns, their leaves shimmering with bioluminescent patterns. Crystal formations dotted the landscape, each one humming with a barely perceptible frequency that seemed to resonate with his very bones. A movement caught his eye. Someone, was watching him from the tree line. Nathan raised his hands slowly, showing he was unarmed. "Hello," he called out, activating his universal translator. "I mean no harm. My ship crashed." 3 figures emerged from the forest, moving with impossible grace. They were humanoid, but their skin seemed to shift colors like the surface of a soap bubble, predominantly in shades of opal and azure. Their eyes were large and entirely silver, reflecting the world like living mirrors. 2 of them carried what appeared to be organic weapons, grown rather than manufactured. The tallest of the 3 stepped forward. Her hair floated around her head like fiber optic cables, pulsing with gentle light. "I am Zara, lead scholar of the Crystal Song clan," she said, her words translated into slightly accented English. "You have crashed in our sacred grove, Starwalker." Nathan bowed slightly, remembering his xenological training. "I'm Nathan Porter, research scientist from Earth. I apologize for my intrusion. My ship detected unusual quantum readings from your planet, and something affected our systems." Zara's eyes flickered with interest. "The song crystals. They resonate with the fabric of spacetime itself. Few outsiders have ever witnessed their power." She turned to her companions, speaking in their native language, a series of melodic tones that seemed to harmonize with the humming crystals around them. The other 2 lowered their weapons, though they remained wary. Zara approached Nathan, her movement like flowing water. "You are injured," she observed, noting the cut on his forehead. "It's nothing serious," Nathan assured her, though he could feel blood trickling down his temple. Zara reached out, her fingers hovering near his wound. "May I?" When Nathan nodded, she touched his forehead gently. Her fingertips grew slightly luminescent, and Nathan felt a cool, tingling sensation as the cut sealed itself. "Bioelectric healing," she explained, seeing his amazement. "All my people possess this gift, though some more strongly than others." "Fascinating," Nathan breathed, his scientific curiosity overwhelming his situation's gravity. "The applications for such technology." A low, resonant tone interrupted him, emanating from the largest crystal formation. Zara's companions shifted uneasily. "The crystal song grows stronger," Zara said, her expression troubled. "Your arrival was not chance, Nathan Porter. The crystals have never reacted this way to an outsider before. She studied him with those mirror-like eyes. You will come with us to the city. The council must be informed of your presence, and... She paused, her skin shifting to a deeper blue. There is much we may learn from each other. As Nathan followed them through the luminescent forest, he couldn't shake the feeling that his crash landing was more than an accident. The crystal's song seemed to follow them, a haunting melody that spoke of destiny and discovery. And when Zara glanced back at him, her silver eyes reflecting the ethereal light of her world, Nathan knew his life would never be the same. Little did he realize that his arrival would set in motion events that would change both their worlds forever, and that the strange attraction he felt toward this alien scholar would challenge everything he thought he knew about love, science, and the very nature of humanity itself. The city of the Crystal Song clan took Nathan's breath away. Unlike human architecture's rigid lines and angles, their structures seemed to grow from the ground itself, spiraling towers of living crystal and bioluminescent material that pulsed in harmony with the greater song. Bridges of light connected different levels, and gardens floated impossibly in mid-air, sustained by the same bioelectric energy that powered their healing abilities. Our ancestors learned to shape the living crystal millennia ago, Zara explained as they walked through streets that glowed beneath their feet. They discovered that consciousness itself could resonate with the crystal's frequency. Nathan noticed how other Keplerians stopped to stare at him, their skin shifting through curious patterns of color. Children with silvery eyes peeked out from behind their parents, whispering in musical tones. He felt like a curiosity in a museum, but Zara's presence beside him was reassuring. The council chambers, she announced, gesturing to a massive structure that resembled a blooming flower made of crystal and light. They will want to understand your purpose here. Inside, 7 elder Keplerians sat in a semicircle, their skin patterns more complex and their hair practically radiating with accumulated bioelectric energy. Nathan felt the weight of their mirrored gaze as Zara presented him. A human scientist, spoke the central figure, her voice carrying harmonics that made the crystal walls vibrate softly. I am High Elder Neria. Your arrival has caused quite a disturbance in the song. Nathan stepped forward, bowing respectfully. I assure you, my presence here was unintended. I was studying quantum anomalies when my ship was affected by your crystal's energy. Perhaps, said another council member, his skin darkening to a deep indigo, or perhaps the song called you here. The crystals have been growing more active in recent cycles. Neria raised her hand, sending ripples of light through the chamber. Zara, as our lead scholar, you will be responsible for our guest. Learn what you can of his people, and teach him our ways. The song's purpose will reveal itself in time. As they left the council chambers, Nathan noticed a figure waiting in the shadows. Her features were similar to Zara's, but her expression was cold, her skin a harsh violet. My sister, Venna, Zara introduced her. She leads our defense forces. Another outsider, Venna's voice carried none of the musical quality of her people, sharp and discordant instead. The song grows chaotic, and you bring strangers into our sacred spaces. The council has made their decision, Zara replied firmly, her own skin flickering with suppressed emotion. Nathan may help us understand the changes in the crystal song. Venna's silver eyes narrowed. Or he may be the cause of them. She turned and walked away, her footsteps leaving temporary dark spots in the luminescent floor. Don't mind my sister, Zara said softly. She has always been, protective of our traditions. Come, I will show you to your quarters, and tomorrow we can begin our exchange of knowledge. The following days fell into a pattern. Mornings were spent in Zara's research chamber, where Nathan shared his understanding of quantum physics while she explained the principles behind their bioelectric abilities. He learned that their healing touch was just the surface of their capabilities. They could communicate across vast distances through the crystal network, store memories in crystalline matrices, and even manipulate matter at a fundamental level. In turn, Nathan's descriptions of Earth and human culture fascinated Zara. She was particularly intrigued by human emotions, how they could be so intense without manifesting as visible color changes in their skin. You feel so much, she marveled one evening as they walked through a floating garden, yet keep it hidden beneath the surface. How do you know what others are thinking? Nathan laughed. We learn to read subtle cues, facial expressions, tone of voice, body language. It's not as direct as your way, but it has its own beauty. Zara's skin shifted to a soft rose color, a pattern Nathan had never seen before. And what does your human intuition tell you about what I'm thinking right now? The question hung in the air between them, charged with unspoken possibility. Nathan felt his heart rate increase as he studied her alien yet beautiful features, the way the garden's light played across her iridescent skin. Before he could respond, an alarm tone reverberated through the crystal city. Zara's skin immediately paled to a stark white. That's the defense alert, she said, all warmth gone from her voice. Something's wrong with the main crystal. They rushed to the central plaza, where a crowd had gathered. The massive crystal spire at the city's heart was pulsing with an erratic rhythm, its usual gentle hum replaced by discordant frequencies that set Nathan's teeth on edge. Venna stood before the crystal, her skin dark with concern. The disturbance grows stronger, she announced, her eyes finding Nathan in the crowd. Since the outsider's arrival, the song has become increasingly unstable. This cannot be coincidence. The crowd's murmuring grew hostile, their skin colors shifting to aggressive hues. Nathan felt Zara step closer to him, her hand brushing his in a gesture that sent a slight bioelectric tingle through his body. We don't know that, Zara projected her voice above the crowd. The changes began before Nathan's arrival. Perhaps he's here because the song called for help. As if in response to her words, the crystal's erratic pulses suddenly synchronized with Nathan's heartbeat, filling the plaza with a harmony that silenced all discussion. For a moment, human and Keplerian stood united in awe of the phenomenon. But as the light faded back to normal, Nathan caught Venna's suspicious gaze and knew that this was just the beginning of their troubles. Whatever connection he had to the crystal song, it was going to test not only his growing feelings for Zara but the very peace between their peoples. The following days brought an uneasy tension to the crystal city. Nathan noticed how the once curious stares of the Keplerians had turned wary, their skin colors shifting to muted tones of distrust when he passed. The main crystal's erratic behavior had only grown worse, its song now filled with discordant notes that set everyone on edge. In Zara's research chamber, Nathan pored over the quantum readings from his crashed ship. These energy patterns, he muttered, they're similar to what I was studying before the crash. But the amplitude is increasing exponentially. Zara leaned over his shoulder, her presence sending a familiar warmth through him. Her hair crystals chimed softly as she moved, a sound he'd come to associate with deep thought. The song speaks of change, she said. But change isn't always destruction, despite what my sister believes. A sharp tone interrupted them, speak of the devil. Venna stood in the doorway, flanked by two members of her defense force. Her skin rippled with dark patterns of authority. The council requests your presence, she announced, her silver eyes fixed on Nathan. Both of you. The council chamber felt colder than Nathan remembered. High Elder Neria's usual serene glow had dimmed to a troubled azure. We've received reports from the outer settlements, she began without preamble. The crystal disruptions are spreading. Some of our people are losing their connection to the song. It's him, Venna stepped forward, her skin practically crackling with accusation. His presence disrupts the natural harmony. The crystals react to his alien energy signature. That's speculation, Zara countered, moving closer to Nathan. The changes could be natural evolution in the crystal network. We've seen similar patterns in our historical records. Never this severe, another council member interjected. And never accompanied by the arrival of an outsider who can synchronize with the main crystal. Nathan felt all eyes turn to him. I want to help, he said firmly. If I'm somehow causing this, then I'm also the key to solving it. Zara and I have been studying the quantum interactions between human biorhythms and your crystal network. You've given him access to our sacred knowledge. Vena's voice rose sharply, causing nearby crystal formations to vibrate. Sister, your fascination with this alien blinds you to the danger he represents. Enough. Neria's command sent ripples of light through the chamber. Zara, continue your research. Vena, maintain vigilance but do not interfere. The song will reveal its purpose in time. Later that evening, Nathan found Zara in one of the floating gardens, her skin cycling through troubled patterns of color. The twin suns were setting, casting the crystal city in deep purples and golds. I've never seen her like this, Zara spoke without turning. Vena was always protective, but this fear, it's changing her. Nathan approached carefully, still unsure of Keplerian personal boundaries. Fear often masks itself as anger, he said softly. On Earth, we have a long history of fearing what we don't understand. Zara turned to face him, her expression unexpectedly vulnerable. And what do you fear, Nathan Porter? The question caught him off guard. In the fading light, her bioluminescence created a soft aura around her, making her appear almost ethereal. I fear. He hesitated, then decided on honesty, I fear that Vena might be right. That my presence here could harm your people, harm you. Zara stepped closer, her hand rising to touch his cheek. The familiar tingle of her bioelectric energy seemed to resonate with something deep inside him. The song chose you, she whispered. I believe that means something. The moment was shattered by a massive surge of energy from the main crystal. The entire city shuddered, and in the distance, they heard the sound of crystalline structures cracking. Zara's skin paled in alarm. The outer defense grid, she gasped. It's failing. They rushed to the central plaza, where chaos had erupted. The main crystal's song had become a cacophony of competing frequencies, and smaller crystals throughout the city were beginning to fracture. Vena stood before the spire, her defense forces attempting to stabilize the energy flow. The harmonics are collapsing, someone shouted. We're losing control. Nathan felt it then, a pull, an impossible resonance between his own heartbeat and the crystal's chaotic rhythm. Without fully understanding why, he stepped toward the spire. Nathan, wait. Zara called out, but he could barely hear her over the crystal's song. As he approached the main crystal, the discordant notes began to shift, aligning themselves with his presence. He placed his hand against the crystal's surface, and suddenly everything changed. Energy coursed through him, and in his mind, he saw patterns, quantum structures, wave functions, the very fabric of reality bending around the crystal network. I understand now, he breathed, even as the energy threatened to overwhelm him. It's not trying to reject me. It's trying to adapt. To create a bridge. The last thing he heard before consciousness fled was Zara screaming his name, and the crystal's song transforming into something entirely new, a harmony of human and Keplerian frequencies that had never existed before. Nathan floated in a sea of quantum possibilities. The crystal song surrounded him, not as sound but as pure information, countless realities overlapping, timelines intersecting, the very fabric of space-time dancing to an impossible rhythm. Through it all, he felt Zara's presence, her bioelectric energy anchoring him to consciousness. When he finally opened his eyes, he found himself in a healing chamber, its walls pulsing with gentle, restorative frequencies. Zara sat beside him, her skin shifting through patterns of relief as she noticed his awakening. 3 days, she said softly, her hand finding his. You've been unconscious for 3 days. The healers weren't sure your human physiology could survive such direct contact with the main crystal. Nathan tried to sit up, his body feeling simultaneously heavy and weightless. The city? Is everyone safe? Zara assured him. What you did, it stabilized the entire network. The song has changed, evolved into something new. Even Vena can't deny the significance of what happened. As if summoned by her name, Vena entered the chamber. Her usual aggressive patterns were subdued, replaced by complex swirls of what Nathan had learned to recognize as uncertainty. "The council requires your presence," she announced, then hesitated. "Both of you. And I owe you an apology, Nathan Porter. It seems I misinterpreted the song's purpose." The council chamber had transformed. The crystals now pulsed with a new harmony, the blend of human and Keplerian frequencies that Nathan had helped create. High Elder Neria's skin glowed with unprecedented patterns as she addressed them. "Our ancestors spoke of a time when the song would evolve," she began. "When an outsider would come, not to disrupt our harmony, but to expand it. Nathan Porter, you have fulfilled a prophecy you never knew existed." "I don't understand," Nathan admitted. "When I touched the crystal, I saw everything. Patterns, connections, possibilities. The crystals are more than energy conduits," Zara explained, her voice filled with wonder. "They're quantum computers, processing reality itself. But they were limited by their single-species perspective. They needed a bridge," Vena finished, stepping forward. "A connection to something beyond our understanding. Human consciousness operates on different quantum frequencies than ours. Your presence completed a circuit that has existed incomplete for millennia." A new tone echoed through the chamber, familiar yet different. Nathan turned to see a holographic projection appearing above them, transmitted from orbit. "This is the Earth vessel Stellar Seeker responding to emergency beacon," a human voice crackled through. "Nathan Porter, do you copy?" The room fell silent. After months of isolation, rescue had finally arrived. Nathan should have felt relieved, overjoyed even. Instead, he felt torn, his heart pulling him in two directions. "You have a choice to make," Neria said gently. "Your people have found you, as we knew they would. You could return to Earth, help establish official contact between our worlds. Or you could stay," Zara finished, her skin shifting through colors he'd never seen before, hope, fear, and something deeper, something that made his breath catch in his throat. Nathan looked around the chamber, at the crystals pulsing in harmony with his heartbeat, at Vena's newfound respect, at the civilization that had evolved to the very edge of quantum reality. Then he looked at Zara, and in her silver eyes he saw not just his reflection, but every possible future stretching out before them. The rescue ship's message repeated, waiting for his response. Everything he had ever known, his career, his life on Earth, waited above. Yet here, on this crystal world, he had found something he never knew he was searching for, a purpose, a connection, a love that transcended species and space itself. "There are other human scientists," he said slowly, "who could help establish relations between our worlds. But there's only one lead scholar who truly understands both the crystal song and human nature." Zara's skin erupted in patterns of pure joy, her hair crystals chiming a melody that the main crystal echoed throughout the city. Even Vena's expression softened, her defensive patterns giving way to acceptance. "The song chooses correctly," Neria declared, her own patterns radiating approval. "Though this is not an ending, but a beginning. Your presence here will change both our worlds, Nathan Porter. Are you prepared for what that means?" Nathan reached for Zara's hand, feeling the familiar tingle of her bioelectric touch harmonizing with his own energy. "Change," he said, smiling at the woman who had shown him a whole new definition of humanity, "is exactly what both our peoples need." The crystal song swelled around them, no longer alien, no longer purely Keplerian, but a symphony of two species learning to resonate as one. As Nathan prepared to respond to the rescue ship, he knew that his greatest adventure, and his greatest love, was just beginning. 6 months after Nathan's decision to stay, the Crystal City had transformed. Human scientists and diplomats now walked its luminescent streets, their presence adding new notes to the ever-evolving song. The main crystal had become a hub of interspecies cooperation, its quantum computational abilities revolutionizing both human and Keplerian understanding of the universe. Nathan stood in what had once been solely Zara's research chamber, now expanded into the Joint Sciences Division. Holographic displays showed the growing network of crystal-human interfaces being established across the planet. His original crashed ship had been converted into a museum piece, a symbol of the accident that changed two civilizations forever. The quantum entanglement tests are showing promising results, Zara announced, entering the chamber with her skin glowing in the patterns of scientific excitement that Nathan had grown to love. We may be able to establish instantaneous communication between Earth and Kepler X9 within the year. Assuming the crystals don't decide to evolve again, Nathan teased, watching her hair crystals chime with amusement. Their relationship had deepened over the months, each day bringing new discoveries about each other's species and themselves. Speaking of evolution, Vena's voice came from the doorway. The former skeptic had become one of their strongest allies, her military expertise crucial in managing the safe integration of humans into Keplerian society. The Council has made their decision about your proposal. Nathan felt his heart rate increase, knowing that Zara would sense his anticipation through her bioelectric abilities. They had spent weeks preparing their petition, unprecedented in Keplerian history. High Elder Neria received them in her private chamber, where the crystal harmonics were more intimate, more personal. Her ancient eyes held wisdom and, Nathan was pleased to note, approval. The joining of two species has never been attempted, she began, her skin shifting through formal patterns. The biological and quantum resonance complications alone are staggering. Yet, the song speaks of possibility, of new harmonies waiting to be discovered. Zara's hand found Nathan's, their energies synchronizing in a way that had become as natural as breathing. We've developed a procedure, she explained, using the crystal network to gradually align our quantum frequencies. Over time, our resonances would harmonize permanently. Creating something entirely new, Nathan added. Not just human, not just Keplerian, but a bridge between worlds, like the song itself. Neria's patterns shifted to ones of blessing. The Council approves. Your union will be the first of its kind, a symbol of what our peoples can achieve together. The ceremony took place at sunset, beneath the main crystal. Representatives from Earth stood alongside Keplerian clan leaders, watching as Nathan and Zara approached the crystal spire. They wore garments woven from both traditional Keplerian living fabric and earth materials, symbolizing their unified future. The song calls us to evolve, Zara spoke in English, her voice carrying the musical qualities of her native tongue. To reach beyond what we know, to find harmony in difference. And in reaching out, Nathan responded in carefully practiced Keplerian tones, we discover that love transcends the boundaries of worlds, of species, of reality itself. They placed their hands on the crystal together. The song surged through them, beginning the process that would gradually align their quantum frequencies. Nathan felt Zara's consciousness brush against his, closer than ever before, as the crystal network began its work of joining them at the most fundamental level. Around them, the city's crystals pulsed with new patterns, celebrating the union of not just two people, but two ways of experiencing reality. Vena led the defense forces in a traditional display of bioelectric art, painting the sky with sweeping patterns of light and energy. Later, as they stood in their favorite floating garden, watching Earth's first embassy take shape in the distance, Zara's skin shifted through the rose-colored patterns that Nathan now knew meant love. The healers say the quantum harmonization is proceeding faster than expected, she said, her hair crystals creating a gentle melody. They believe our frequencies were already beginning to align naturally, even before the ceremony. Nathan pulled her close, feeling the familiar tingle of their energies meeting. Maybe the song knew what it was doing all along. When my ship crashed here, I thought I was lost. Instead, I was finally found. Zara's laugh sent ripples of light through nearby crystals. And now? What does the great human scientist think about spending his life with an alien who glows when she's happy? I think, Nathan said, touching his forehead to hers in the traditional Keplerian gesture of intimacy, that happiness itself is evolving into something new. Something better. Above them, the twin suns set into a horizon that no longer marked the boundary between two worlds, but the beginning of a shared future. The crystal song hummed through the city, through their bodies, through the quantum fabric of space-time itself, no longer just a melody of ancient power, but a symphony of infinite possibility, played by two species learning to dance to the same cosmic rhythm. In their love, human ingenuity and Keplerian harmony had found their perfect resonance. And as the stars began to emerge in the alien sky, Nathan and Zara stood together, their personal song joining the greater harmony of a universe where love knew no boundaries, and where the greatest adventures were those of the heart.